All right, all right, all right. Okay. This is not ESPN's 30 for 30. However, it is my 98 for 98. The 98 seasons in the history of the New York Football Giants. Going to try to get it done in 98 days. Probably not going to happen, but I am going to get it done before the beginning of the new season, which starts September 10th against those Dallas Cowboys. And I started this journey here in 1925. So we were in the 20th century for a long, long time. We finally reached the 21st century. The year 2000, which just happened to be the 76th season in the history of the New York Giants, 76th season in the history of the Giants, 81st season in the history of the NFL, because the NFL started in 1920, Giants started in 1925. So the Giants are 5 years younger than the NFL is, but we finally reached 2000, and it was just a special season, very, very special season. And it didn't end so special, but, it was a great ride. It was a great ride. A bunch of things happened. One of the things, like for the Giants, they kind of tried to, they tried to turn the clock back a little bit. I don't know, because they went back to their old time uniforms from 1961 to 74, where they had the little NY on the side of their helmet. There's no longer, they used to have the Giants spelled out there. Actually, for 1 year, they had like this kind of disco, kind of funky looking NY on the side when they played in Shea Stadium. And then after that, and starting in 76, when they had their own stadium in New Jersey, they had the Giants just spelled out because they were playing in New Jersey. I guess they didn't want to have the NY on there from New York, but they got NY on there from New York now, and they're playing in Jersey, so go figure. But also another thing, they pulled up the turf and they put down actual, I guess you can kind of call it grass. It didn't last very long. I think it was the Giants played, it was from 2000, either 2002 or maybe 2003 at the latest. They had grass at Giants Stadium. Now, one of the problems was that, it was pretty much like every week it was just getting beaten up, because obviously the Giants pretty much played there 1 week. The next week, pretty much the Jets played there. So it was always getting chewed up. Unlike, because you get like other stadiums like Lambeau Field, Soldier Field. Philadelphia. I'm about 20 minutes from Philadelphia here. They got a beautiful ballpark. It's a beautiful ballpark. On the field, the grass is absolutely beautiful. But I guess it's pretty much like, one team town, right? So I believe, quite possibly one of the biggest problems they had was, it's always being played on. Figure if they were able to sustain grass in Green Bay and sustain grass in Chicago, and for the longest time, like in Detroit Stadium, the Lions played on grass. They didn't start playing on turf until they moved indoors. If you can play, grass, have grass in those stadiums, right? But so for a few years, the Giants had grass. But anyway, but it was just a special season. It was the fourth season for Coach Jim Fassel. Turned things around, right? In Jim Fassel's first season, they were 10-5-1. Then they went to 8-8. Then they went to 7-9. When they were 8-8 and 7-9, both years they missed the playoffs by like one game. They were close. But this year, everything really gelled. Sometimes things just kind of fall into place for you, and this was one of those. The Giants had a nice team, and I said once again, sometimes things just fall into place for you. They were not an offensive juggernaut. They weren't the 85 Bears. Actually, they ran up to up against the 2000 Ravens. So the Giants didn't have the greatest defense of all time. They certainly didn't have the greatest offense of all time. As we look here, let's see. Giants averaged 20.5 points a game. Very pedestrian. Their defense was fifth in the league. They gave up 15.4 points a game. So the defense was very, very good. Right? But everything just kind of fell into place for them. And, they wound up 12-4. Then in the divisional round, they beat the Eagles. And let's not forget. It's the Giants won 20-16. Well, their offense didn't score a touchdown in that game. Okay. Jason Sewell picked the pass off and ran it back for a touchdown. Then they returned a kickoff back for a touchdown. So the Giants offense did not score a touchdown in that whole game. But they won 20-10. The following weekend in the championship game, they scored a whole lot of touchdowns. I mean, they were up, 34-0, I think, at halftime. And I think the only scoring in the second half was they scored one touchdown, the Giants. So it went up 41-0. They won the championship game against the Minnesota Vikings. But then things kind of fell apart against the Ravens in the Super Bowl, which we'll go over in just a bit here. I don't want to go over it too much because it's a little painful to talk about it. But let's see here. So let's see here. The Giants, they're I think they were 2-2. Was that right? No, my bad. Oh, I'm thinking about. I think I think the '99 season they were 2-2. Actually, they started off 0-4 in preseason. They 0-4. First game was August 5th at home against the Bears. They lost 20-8. So, I mean, you go 0-4, it is preseason, but, 0-4 is not exactly the way you want. You want to at least win a couple games. But the following week, on August 11th in Jacksonville, the Giants would lose to the Jaguars 16-13. Following week on the road against the Jets, they shared the same stadium. On August 18th, the Giants would lose to the Jets in wound up being quite a battle, 27-24. The Jets would prevail. Then little did they know. Okay, little did they know. The following week, the final preseason game on Friday, August 25th, the Giants would play home. They would host the Baltimore Ravens, and the Giants would lose 24-17. Little did everybody know that would be an eventual Super Bowl matchup. So, the Giants this year, they did have a nice draft. They had a nice draft this year. Now, the one thing was, some people, call it a bust, whatever you want to call it. I was happy that we wound up taking Ron Dayne with the 11th overall pick. The Giants for a long time had just drafting running backs. And this is the first year they actually had Tiki Barber actually running the ball a decent amount. His first 3 seasons with the Giants, Tiki ran for a grand total of it was like about 900 yards or so. Well, this year, Tiki Barber ran for over 1,000 yards. So this was his first of many good seasons to come with Tiki Barber. But the Giants drafted Ron Dayne with the 11th overall pick. Now, Ron Dayne, he played from 2000 to 2007. He played with the Giants. He played with who was it? I know he played with the Broncos one time because on Thanksgiving, he played with the Texans and the Broncos. But the one year when he played for the Broncos, I know they played the Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day, and he had a nice long touchdown run. 2005. So in 2005, let's check this out here. In 2005, Denver played the Cowboys, obviously, in Dallas on Thanksgiving. What was the score? I know they beat them they beat them decently too. Thanksgiving here. Where was that? Dallas. Oh, no. Oh, my bad. My bad. It was 24-21. I thought they beat them by more than that. But it was Thursday, November 24th, Thanksgiving. Actually, it was in overtime. The Broncos would beat the Cowboys 24-21. So I remember Ron Dayne had a long touchdown run in this one. Hopefully I'm right about this. I was wrong about the score. Did he get a long touchdown run? A 16-yard run? I know he had a long run in this one too. It was more than, had to be more than 16 yards. He had a 55-yard. He had 7 carries for 98 yards, 1 touchdown, but his 1 touchdown run was 16 yards. Yeah, it said here 16 yards, but he had a 55-yard run in this game. So, Okay, so I was right about that. I was wrong about the score. I thought they beat him by a lot more than that. But anyway, I mean, I said he had a nice career. For pick number 11, I guess you'd rather have a little, better results. But it is what it is. His final 2 seasons with Houston in 2006 and 2007. I remember Houston was not a phenomenal team back then, right? I mean, they were kind of not a. Well, had been an expansion team a few years earlier, okay? But anyway, in his 2006, he had 151 carries for 612 yards. He averaged 4.1 yards a carry in his second to last season. And what do he have? He had 5 rushing touchdowns for him. His final season, 2007, he had 194 carries, 773 yards. He averaged 4 yards a carry and had 6 rushing touchdowns. So his final 2 seasons were, not bad. The thing is that I guess he started falling out of favor with the Giants and all that and everything, because in his first season, he had 228 carries. His second season, 2001, he had 180 carries. 2002, he had 125 carries. So his carries kept going down. And then his final season with the Giants was in 2004. He only had 52 carries. He only averaged 3.4 yards a carry. I mean, but it can kind of, he might have had better results, possibly, if he had better blocking. Let me explain. His time with the Giants, he averaged 3.4 yards a carry, 3.8 yards a carry, 3.4 yards a carry, and 3.4 yards a carry. So 3 of his 4 years, he averaged 3.4 yards a carry. So after he had all these carries with the Giants, all these carries in college and this, that, he was hit, beat up, this, that, all this stuff and everything. His final 3 seasons, 2005 with Denver, he averaged 5.1 yards a carry. He had 53 carries, 5.1. let me just show you here. 2004 with the Giants, he had 52 carries, 3.4 yards a carry. The next season, now he's another year older with Denver, 53 carries, he averaged 5.1 yards a carry. The next season with Houston, 4.1 yards a carry. The following season, his final season, he averaged 4.0 yards a carry. He never averaged 4 yards a carry with the Giants. The other teams, he averaged at least 4 yards a carry. And in one season with Denver, he averaged 5.1 yards a carry. So if the circumstances were better, if he had better blocking, better offense, this, that, and the other thing, I'm sure he could have done better. But it is what it is. Okay. But I mean, it was a nice pick. A lot of people think, obviously it was a bust and this, that, and the other thing. It is what it is. I mean, it was the Heisman. What does it? Do I got it here? Here we go. I mean, he had two 2,000-yard seasons, rushing seasons in college. He had 71 rushing. I mean, just phenomenal number. His freshman season, I guess, he had 21 rushing touchdowns for Wisconsin. His senior season, he had 20. He had 15 in his sophomore season. He had 15 rushing touchdowns in his junior season. He had 71 rushing touchdowns in 4 seasons. He wasn't much of a receiver, but I mean, he had 1,220 carries for Wisconsin in college. That's a lot of carries. That's a lot of tread off your tires, right? But he had 7,125 rushing yards. I mean, just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So they took him, right? And said he maybe didn't wind up panning out as much as it. He won the Heisman Trophy in '99. 20 rushing touchdowns, 2,034 yards rushing. I mean, it's a phenomenal season. But would have liked it to have been better? Yeah, but it is what it is, right? So that was their first round selection. In the second round, one of my, I really wish they would have kept this guy. But this kind of started like a little. Well, I guess you can't say, but to me, it really just seemed to pop up more in the 2000s, in the 21st century. The Giants would draft a good defensive tackle, like in the second round, first, second, third round, whatever, and then he would play his 4 years, and they would just let him go. They would never re-sign him. I mean, to me, it just starts with Cornelius Griffin right here from Alabama, second round, 2000 draft. He played 4 seasons with the Giants, and then he wound up finishing was it 4 or 5 with the Giants? 1, 2. He played 4 with the Giants, and then he finished up his career. His final 6 seasons were with Washington, the Redskins. It was tough watching him in a Redskin uniform, but he was a very good, solid defensive tackle. I mean, I wish the Giants really could have kept him around. I mean, his rookie season, let's see, he didn't start. He played in all 15 games. He didn't start in any, but he had 5 sacks. But his next 3 seasons with the Giants, 2001, 2002, and 2003, he started in almost every game. He was a good, solid defensive tackle. You put him next to the Hammer, Cornelius Griffin, Strahan, and the Hammer. Nice defensive front by Corny. He was a muscular built guy. I mean, he was. I mean, it wasn't the greatest defensive tackle, but he was a good, solid pick, especially in the second round. And as I said, I mean, he had a 10-year career. But unfortunately, once again, as what the Giants did with so many of their players back then, they would draft these guys. They would, even guys that would have a long career and all that, and they would play 4 years for the Giants, and they would just let them go. So, but it was Cornelius Griffin in the second round was a good, solid pick for the Giants. Then the Giants took, in the third round, they took good old Ron Dixon, a wide receiver from Lambuth College, right? He only played, unfortunately, 3 seasons in the NFL. They were all with the Giants, right? He wasn't much of a he was a good return man, but he wasn't, what did he have? He had a grand total of 36 catches for the Giants over his 3-year career. So, he wasn't much of, a receiving threat. But let's see, here we go. All right. But, I mean, he was very good return man. So, that was his specialty. He was a return man. Matter of fact, Ron Dixon scored the only touchdown for the Giants in the Super Bowl. Later on in the season, he had returned the kickoff 97 yards back for a touchdown. Gave the Giants a little bit of hope, but it was just not meant to be. All right, so then the Giants, their 4th round pick, Brandon Short, very good linebacker, especially in the 4th round. Just a solid linebacker. He played 4 seasons with the Giants, of course, and then they just let him go. He played 2 seasons with Carolina. Then he came back and played 1 final season with the Giants in 2006. But just a solid linebacker. Nothing, no, let's see, it was no all pros, no Pro Bowls, nothing like that. But he was a solid player. I mean, 2002 with the Giants, according to Pro Football Reference here, he had 88 combined tackles. He had 3 sacks and 88 combined tackles. He played in 16 games, solid, very solid. His final season with the Giants in 2003, he had 75 tackles, 3 sacks. I mean, just a solid pick, right? Nothing crazily awesome, but just a solid pick, especially in the 4th round. Right. Then the Giants took Ralph Brown, who he was a defensive back from Nebraska. He had a long career. He played until 2009. Of course, once again, as Giants have always done, it was not with the Giants. He played 4 seasons once again with the Giants, and they just let him go. He played from 2000 to 2003 was with the Giants. 2004 and 5 was with Minnesota. 2006 he played with Cleveland. Then his final 3 seasons, 2007, 8, and 9 with the Arizona Cardinals. And it was good for him because in 2008, the Cardinals went to the Super Bowl. So good for him. They didn't win, but at least he got to the Super Bowl. And he I guess you get a ring for that. Plus you get a share of the, you get some money for making this to the Super Bowl. So good for him. Let's see. So then we got Dhani Jones, another good pick, right? In the 6th round, he had a 10-year career. So the Giants actually had 7 picks. 3 of their 7 picks played 10 seasons. And 2 of their picks that played 10 seasons, one was in the 5th round, one was in the 6th round. So good old Dhani Jones. But once again, as always, right? He was a good player, good player. He's from Michigan. Once again, I sound like a broken record here. The Giants signed him. He played 3 seasons with the Giants, and they just let him go. Just unbelievable. I mean, let's see. He didn't play in 2000. I'm not exactly sure what happened to him, but he played 2001, 2002, and 2000. I'm not sure if he was injured and he had to sit out the whole season or something. But so basically, including 2000, he didn't play. But 2001, 2, and 3, and then he went off and he played 1, 2. He played 3 seasons with the Eagles, and he finished up his career with Cincinnati, playing 4 seasons with Cincinnati from 2007 to 2010. I mean, it's just unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. I mean, all these guys, the Giants would draft them. They played 3-4 years, and they were gone. It's just unbelievable. But I mean, Honey Jones was a very solid linebacker. Nothing crazily awesome, but a good solid pick. And then Jeremiah Parker, he was their 7th round pick. He was a defensive end. He only played 1 season, which was 2000. He was from California. Let's see, how many games did he play in? I'm sure he did. I don't think he didn't start any games. Played in 4 games. So he maybe special teams or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, so he was once again a 7th round pick. So is what it is. All right. So what does Wikipedia here have to say about the 2000 New York Football Giants? The 2000 season for the Giants was their 76th season in the National Football League and the 4th under head coach Jim Fassel. Now, as I said, 97, the Giants were 10-5-1. They won the division. 2000, they won the division. 98, they were 8-8. 99, they were 7-9. Right. So, I mean, yeah, not horrible at all. This season marked the Giants' NY helmet logo returning again for the first full time since 1975. Well, this is the lowercase NY. The 1975 they were referring to was when they played Shea Stadium. They had like a funky, I heard of people calling it like the disco, but it was like a uppercase NY, but it was just a funky looking NY. And it was only on there for 1 season. So the team finished with a record of 12-4, and in the playoffs they defeated the Eagles, and then in the divisional round 20-10. Then they shut out the Vikings in the NFC Championship game 41-0, making it to Super Bowl 35, where they lost to the Ravens 34-7. Yeah, that wasn't a loss. It was a good butt whooping. Good butt whipping. Let's see here. Yeah, the Giants also, one of the things the Giants did was they kind of had a little bit of a patchwork offensive line kind of going on. They brought in Glenn Parker from the Chiefs. He played guard. Lomas Brown, he played like 3,000 seasons at tackle. I think he played 18 seasons in the NFL at tackle. So he brought Lomas Brown in from the Browns, right? He played a tackle. He was next to Glenn Parker, and then we brought in Dusty Ziegler from the Bills. So and then we had was it George Stone? Was that? It wasn't George. His name's not George. What's his Stone? I know his last name's Stone. Ron Stone. There you go. And so he wasn't even drafted by the Giants. So it was kind of a patchwork going on. The only guy that the Giants actually drafted was Luke Pettigrew. He was our right tackle. He was like the only guy the Giants actually drafted. So it was kind of a patchwork offensive line. Obviously it worked. So the Giants brought them in, but the Giants lost, I guess in free agency, they lost Marcus Buckley, a linebacker. They lost Scott Gregg, a tackle. They lost Kent Graham, Roman Oben. They lost another tackle. They lost David Patton, a wide receiver. They lost Percy Ellsworth, a safety. And they lost Philippi Sparks, who went to the Cowboys. Ooh, that hurts. But so that's that. So the 2000 season here, as I said, the Giants, they averaged only 20 points a game, but they only gave up 15. So they had a very solid defense. But once again, things just all fell into place. Kerry Collins played every snap at quarterback. There was no injuries, right, to him. He completed 58.8% of his passes, almost 59% of his passes. He had 22 touchdown passes, 13 interceptions. He had 3,600 yards throwing the ball. Just a solid season. When Kerry Collins was on, Kerry Collins could throw a good football. Boy, he could throw a very, very good football. And the Giants, they did a great job at running the ball, staying committed to the run. They ran the ball 507 times. They passed the ball 529 times. They ran the ball 507 times. So basically almost a 50-50 split. Good commitment to the run. Very good commitment to the run. They ran the ball 31.7 times a game. So basically, they ran the ball on average 32 times every game. So very, very, very good commitment to the run. I mean, basically, it was Ron Dayne and Tiki Barber. Ron Dayne had 770 yards. He had 228 carries. Tiki Barber had 213 carries for 1,006 yards. Other than that, Kerry Collins had 65 yards rushing. Greg Camella, the fullback, at 45. Amani Toomer, our wide receiver, he had 5 carries for 91 yards. Jason Garrett had 4 carries for -4 yards. Ike Hilliard, he had 3 carries for 19 yards. Ron Dixon, another wide receiver, had 2 carries for 13 yards. And Joe Montgomery, a running back we drafted in the second round. I think this might have been his last season in the NFL, or he maybe had one more season, but he had 1 carry for 4 yards. But I mean, basically all the runs were with Ron Dayne and Tiki Barber, just commitment to the run. They both played in all 16 games. Right, Ron Dayne and Tiki Barber, just good, solid commitment to the runs. Now, once again, we had Kerry Collins who could throw the football. He had some weapons. Tiki Barber not only had 1,000 yards receiving, but he had 719 yards. I'm sorry, he not only had 1,006 yards rushing. I apologize. He had 70 receptions for 719 yards. So that they started just in the 2000 season seeing. Well, Tiki Barber the year before had 65 or 66 receptions. So he knew he could catch the ball out of the backfield, but this is the first time they actually gave him a whole bunch of carries and see what he could do. So, but I said with Kerry Collins, when he was on, he was a good quarterback. Amani Toomer had 78 receptions. Greg Camella, the fullback, had 36 receptions. Tiki Barber had 70 receptions. The other wide receiver, good old Ike Hilliard, the 1997 number 1 pick. He had 55 receptions. And then Joe Juravicius, he had 24. Pete Mitchell, the tight end, he was the league leading, the team leader as far as tight end receptions. He had 25. So, I mean, the Giants, they mixed in the run and the pass. They did a very, very good job. But so once again, commitment to the run. The problem is that what I never liked was when Tiki Barber was in there and he was in the backfield, you didn't know if they were going to run or pass. Because if it was a pass, Tiki just work his way out of the backfield and he dumped the pass off to him and he can work his magic. Or if they ran the ball, they can run the ball with him. A lot of times the thing was when Ron Dayne was in. What did Ron Dayne? Ron Dayne played in all 16 games. He had 3 receptions. He had 3. Tiki Barber had 70. So the thing I never liked was when Ron Dayne came in, and Tiki Barber would go out and Ron Dayne would come in. It was like, oh, here comes Ron Dayne. Yeah, they're probably going to run the ball. So that was the one thing I never liked about Ron Dayne. And I'm sure the defenses thought that as well, too. But that's why Ron Dayne only averaged 3.4 yards a carry. Tiki Barber averaged 4.7. So, I mean, when Tiki was in there, they didn't know if they were going to run or throw the ball. Ron Dayne, it was a good chance it was going to be a run. Let's see here. Brad Delwiso, he was their main kicker. He kicked 17 out of 23 field goals. Brad Maynard had another nice season. He averaged 40.6 yards on the punts. The Giants, what they had 44 sacks, so nothing crazily, but their offensive line was decent. Okay, they only gave up 28 sacks all year, so they did a very, very good job there keeping Kerry Collins upright. Let's see here. What do we got? Oh, sacks. Jesse Armstead had 5 sacks. Michael Barrow, Giants middle linebacker had 3.5. Michael Strahan had 9.5. Keith the Hammer Hamilton had 10. Cedric Jones, that was the Giants' #1 overall pick in 1996. This is his final season with the Giants. This is his final season in the NFL. He had 3.5 sacks. Where's my man Cornelius Griffin? Where did he have? He had 5 sacks as a rookie. He had 5 sacks. He didn't even start. He played 15 games. He wasn't even a starter. Christian Peter was basically the starter. Christian Peter was the left defensive tackle. He started in 15 games. He only had 1 sack. Cornelius Griffin would come in, and he had 5 sacks. And Cornelius Griffin played in 15 games. He didn't start any games, and he still had 5 sacks. I really like Cornelius Griffin. I really wish they would have kept the guy around, but it is what it is. So, I mean, once again, they had a good defense. Their offense was just not, it was a good offense. But once again, I said things just kind of fell into place for the Giants. Now let's go over their season here. Okay, they would jump out to a 3-0 start. They would win their first 3 games. The first game was at home against the Cardinals. They won 21-16. The second game they played in Philadelphia against the Eagles. They won 33-18. Now the Giants are 2-0. Then they would go on the road and they would play the Chicago Bears in Chicago. They won 14-7. So now the Giants are starting. They're 3-0. Whew. Right. Then they would lose their next 2. The Washington Redskins would come to town, and the Giants would lose 16-6 to the Redskins in Giants Stadium. So now the Giants are 3-1. Then they would lose to Tennessee. They would they played in Tennessee. They lost 28-14. So now the Giants are 3-2. And Tennessee was a good team. Tennessee went to the Super Bowl the year before. Tennessee this year also went to the championship game where they lost to the Ravens. And the Giants would win their next 4 games. So they would jump out to a 7-2 record, right? They beat the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta 13-6. Once again, I mean, not scoring a lot of points. Only scored 13 points because with their defense, they wound up winning 13-6. All right, so now the Giants are 4-2. Once again, then the Giants played the Cowboys at home. The Giants scored 19 points. Not a lot of points, but because of their good defense, they won 19-14. Now the Giants are 5-2. Then they had 2 back-to-back really good games. They played the Eagles at home. They won 24-7. Good offense, good defense. Now they're 6-2. Then they would go on the road and they would play the Browns in Cleveland. And once again, good offense, good defense. They won 24-3. Now the Giants are 7-2, looking good. Then they had, then of course, they had to play the Rams at home. The Rams won 38-24. The Rams were obviously a very good team because the Rams won the Super Bowl the year before. So let's see. So now the Giants are 7-3, and then it seems just like I don't know, whatever reason, like the Giants just can't seem to beat Detroit. Lost to them last year, can't be. I mean, Detroit just seems to have our number quite a bit. The Detroit Lions came to Giants Stadium and won 31-21. I think, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, this was the game that Jason Sehorn's pants fell down. He was somebody. There was a long touchdown reception. Let me see. Let's see which one could it have been. Could have been Johnny Morton on a 32-yard touchdown reception. Herman Moore caught one for 7 yards. It wasn't that one. Maybe it was Johnny Morton. It's quite possible. Johnny Morton caught a touchdown pass, a 32-yard touchdown pass in the third quarter. And I believe, if I remember correctly, Jason Sehorn's belt or something was undone and his pants were coming down as he was running into the end zone trying to cover the guy. But Detroit scored 21 points in the second quarter, and then they wound up running away with a 31-21 victory. So the Giants have always had a hard time beating those Lions. But now the Giants are 7-4, but then that would be their final loss until the Super Bowl. The Giants the following week would at Arizona would win 31-7. Now the Giants are 8-4. The following week, okay, once again, very poor performance from the offense, right? but their defense did enough to get them the victory. They played in Washington. The Giants won 9-7. So now the Giants are 9-4. Okay, then the Giants, let's see, they played at home against Pittsburgh, and they beat the Pittsburgh rather handily, 30-10. But I mean, you can see, the Giants, their defense, they gave up 7 points one game, 6 points, 7 points, 3 points, 7 points, 7 points, 10 points. This following week, they gave up 13 points when they beat the Cowboys in Dallas, 17-13. Right, so the Giants' second to last game, they played in Dallas and they won 17-13. So now they're 11-4. But even in the playoffs, they gave up 10 points to the Eagles. They shut the Vikings out. So I mean, the Giants, the defense was very solid, very, very solid. And then the final game of the season. Now this one was interesting because, speaking of Jason Sehorn, the Giants' final game of the season, the Giants beat the Jacksonville Jaguars at home 28-25. But it was really, really interesting because there were 3 touchdowns got scored in the final 2 minutes of the game. Let's see, the Giants were up 21-10. Okay. Giants went up 21-10. Actually, there was 4 touchdowns scored in the last 3 minutes of the game. So let's see what. In the first, 3 minutes, first 57 minutes of the game, all right, the 2 teams combined scored 24 points. 24 points in the first 57 minutes. The last 3 minutes, they scored 28 points. There was 4 touchdowns scored in the last 3 minutes. The Giants were up 14-10. Amani Toomer caught a 54-yard touchdown pass from Kerry Collins. The Giants kind of thought to seal the deal, kind of put the game away. Put the Giants up 21-10, 11 points with 3 minutes to go. Feeling pretty good. Well, now, about a minute 10 later, Kyle Brady caught a 5-yard touchdown pass from Mark Brunell and they got the 2-point conversion, made it 21-18. Now, all of a sudden, the Jacksonville Jaguars are only 3 points down. Well, on the speaking of Jason Sehorn, on the ensuing onside kick, the ball bounced up to Jason Sehorn, boom, caught it in stride, took off, and ran back for a touchdown, 38 yards for a touchdown on the onside kick, putting the Giants up 28-18 with a minute 51 left to go. Jaguars got the ball, marched down the field. Alvis Whitted caught a 12-yard touchdown pass from Mark Brunell. They kicked the extra point, and now it's 28-25. So, but that was the final score. But I mean, it was a crazy ending to the game. The 4 touchdowns in the last 3 minutes. Crazy, crazy, crazy ending to the game. But the Giants would beat the Jaguars and Tom Coughlin. So now the Giants finished 12-4. And we'll talk about their playoff games. And so let's go over here. All right, let's go to Wikipedia. What does Wikipedia got to say about this? Let's see here. Whoops. About the 2000 season here. All right. The 2000 NFL season was the 81st regular season in the history of the National Football League. The season ended with in Super Bowl 35 with the Ravens beating the Giants at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. Week 1 of the season reverted to Labor Day weekend in 2000. It would be the last NFL season to date to start on Labor Day weekend. It would also be the last time until 2015 that CBS televised the late afternoon games in Week 1. Because both Week 1 of the NFL season and CBS's coverage of the U.S. Open tennis finals would take place on the same day beginning next season. So, I don't whoop-de-doo. Whoop-de-doo, who cares? All right. So the 81st season in the history of the NFL. So now we have, let's start with the AFC, shall we? The AFC East, the Dolphins won with a record 11-5. The Colts were in second place with a record of 10-6. So the Colts were one of the wild card teams. The AFC Central, the Tennessee Titans were 13-3. The Baltimore Ravens were in second place with a record of 12-4. Now, the Ravens gave up 165 points in 16 games. They averaged giving up like 10 points a game. 10 points a game. What a defense. But the Ravens were still a wild card. Let's see. In the AFC West, the Raiders won with a record of 12-4, and the Broncos were in second place, and they got the final wild card spot. They had with a record of 11-5. So in the playoffs, Baltimore beat, let's see now, Baltimore, they gave up. The Ravens gave up what? 10, 13, 16, 20. They gave up 23 points in 4 football games. Their defense. They had to play 4 football games in the playoffs. They gave up 23 points. 23 points. Wow. So in the wild card, Baltimore was at home. They won 21-3 over Denver. The other wild card, Miami beat Indianapolis 23-17, setting up in the divisional round. The Raiders would beat Miami 27-0, and then it was a very entertaining game. Baltimore went and in Tennessee they beat the Titans 24-10, setting up the championship game between Baltimore and Oakland. But because the Oakland won their division and all of that, they hosted the championship game and they lost 16-3 to the Ravens, so sending the Ravens to the Super Bowl. So that now in the NFC East, the Giants were in first place with a record of 12-4. The Eagles were in second place with a record of 11-5. So the Eagles got one of the wild card spots. The NFC Central, the Vikings won with a record of 11-5. Tampa Bay won another wild card spot. They were in second place. They had a record of 10-6. In the NFC West, the Saints and the Rams were both tied at 10-6, but the Saints won the division and the Rams got the third wild card spot because New Orleans finished ahead of St. Louis in the NFC West based on a better division record. The Saints were 7-1 in the division, and the St. Louis Rams were 5-3. So that's why the Saints wound up winning the division, and the Rams had to be a wild card team. So in the NFC, the wild card, New Orleans beat St. Louis. So they had to wind up playing each other, right? So New Orleans beat St. Louis 31-28. And in Veterans Stadium, Tampa Bay, lost to the Eagles 21-3. So now the Eagles moved on. So the Eagles played the Giants in the divisional round. This is where the Giants would wind up winning, right? Ron Dixon would take the opening kickoff, run it back for a touchdown. Jason Sehorn had an incredible interception of a Donovan McNabb pass, tipped it up, just barely missed touching the ground, tipped it up, caught it, picked it up, got himself up and ran it in for a touchdown. So the Giants won 20-10, but the Giants offense didn't score a touchdown. So the Giants, once again, a good, strong Giants defense propelled the Giants to a victory in that game. And I can't think of any team better to beat than the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs. So in the other divisional round, Minnesota beat New Orleans 34-16, setting up the championship game in New York, right? Or shall I say, in New Jersey, between the Giants and Minnesota. So, of course, then, obviously what wound up happening was, it was 34-0 at halftime. And the Giants just cruised to, let's see here. The Giants really, really did a great job. The Vikings had a heck of an offensive team. But the Giants, let's see, Minnesota had 9 first downs. Minnesota had 114 yards of total offense. They had 5 turnovers. The Giants had the ball for over 42 minutes. Giants ran the ball 41 times for 138 yards. Kerry Collins was on fire. He had 5 touchdown receptions, 5 touchdown passes, 29 completions out of 40. So basically he was like 74% completion, 73, 74, whatever that winds up being, for 385 yards. He threw 2 interceptions, but he had 5 touchdown passes. When he's on, he's on. Really, really good. The Giants did a phenomenal job. Actually, this is another, shutout at home for the Giants in their obviously their history. Actually, if you want to look at it, the Giants have been to 5 Super Bowls. 2 of those Super Bowls that they went to, 2 of those 5, okay, 2 of them, the championship game was played in New York. So, and the Giants have not given up a point in a home championship game in the Super Bowl era. They beat the Redskins 17-0. 1986. They beat Minnesota 41-0 in 2000 because in 1990 the championship game was played in San Francisco. 2007 they wound up playing the championship game was in Green Bay. 2011 the championship game was played in San Francisco. So but the Giants, at home in championship games in Super Bowl era have not get what would that be? 58-0. They've outscored their opponents. So, but I mean, all in all, it's just a good, solid, great, it was I'll tell you what, I couldn't have been happier when it would be, it was what do we got? Ike Hilliard. It was like the first drive of the game. Ike Hilliard caught a 46-yard touchdown pass from Kerry Collins. Then about like, what is it? What would that be? 16. I forgot what it was, but Minnesota turned the ball over. So 16 seconds later, Greg Camella caught an 18-yard touchdown pass from Kerry Collins. So now it's 14-0. So in the second quarter, Brad DeLuiso kicked a 21-yard field goal to make it 17-0. Joe Jurevicius scored an 8-yard touchdown pass from Kerry Collins to make it 24-0. Brad DeLuiso kicked another field goal to make it 27-0. And then Ike Hilliard had a 7-yard touchdown reception to make it 34-0 at halftime. And Amani Toomer in the third period caught a 7-yard touchdown pass to make it 41-0. I mean, so basically the rest of the game was just pretty much whether the Giants could shut them out or not. And they did. I mean, that was a high-powered offense. And they shut him out. So unfortunately, in the Super Bowl, it was not meant to be. But the thing was, I mean, it was not that bad of a defensive performance because if you see, Baltimore scored 34 points. But they had 13 first downs. They had a grand total of 244 yards of offense. 244 yards of offense. The problem was the Giants had 5 turnovers, 4 interceptions, and a fumble. Right, one of the interceptions got run back for a touchdown. Who was it? Dwayne Starks picked the pass off, ran it back 49 yards for a touchdown. But also, of course, what that also wound up doing too was that set. I believe it's still a Super Bowl record. This is the only game where there was a back-to-back Super Bowls, 3 consecutive plays, 3 consecutive touchdowns. Dwayne Starks picked off Kerry Collins' pass, ran it back 49 yards for a touchdown. Now, the Ravens were up 17-0 with about 3 minutes and 49 seconds to go in the third quarter. So the Giants haven't scored yet. They're down 17-0. It's like, okay, forget it. Game's over, right? Well, on the ensuing kickoff, Ron Dixon ran it back 97 yards for a touchdown. So now with 3.5 minutes left to go in the third quarter, the Giants only down by 10 points. Right? The Ravens aren't scoring a lot. They're not moving the ball a lot, this, that, and the other thing. So, I mean, the Giants have a chance. They have a chance. But then on the ensuing kickoff, once again, this is where the third consecutive play in a row is a touchdown. Jermaine Lewis ran it back 84 yards for a touchdown, putting the Ravens back up 24-7, and pretty much the game was over then. The problem was that the Ravens didn't have to usually go very far. I mean, because they scored 34 points. 2 of their touchdowns, one was an interception return, one was for a kickoff return. So basically, their offense scored 20 points. But out of a lot of those 20 points, a lot of them was off of turnovers. The Giants had 4 interceptions, setting the Ravens up in good field position. The Giants fumbled the ball too. I mean, so as I said, they only had 244 yards of offense, which I believe is the lowest in NFL history in the Super Bowl era for a winning team, I think. And I said they only had 13 first downs. So if it wasn't for their defense, the game would have been a whole heck of a lot better. I mean, once again, when you talk about great defenses, you talk about the 85 Bears, maybe the 86 Giants, but you talk about the 2000 Ravens. And the 2000 Ravens are the reason why they won. It wasn't because of their quarterback, Trent Dilfer. Okay. No. It was because of their defense. They had a phenomenal defense. And it was just you couldn't run on them, and they had such good. The secondary was so good. As I said, Ray Lewis was just a beast. He could go sideline to sideline making tackles. I mean, they could get pressure on you. It was just, and it was so fast. Their speed was incredible, and I think that's what really overtook the Giants was their speed, their physicality, and their speed. And it just wound up being too much. for the Giants. Things fell in place for the Giants during the regular season, but the wheels pretty much fell off in the Super Bowl, and it wasn't much of a Super Bowl. But you're just proud, very, very proud that the Giants actually got to the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Was it disappointing to get smoked that badly? Oh yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. But I mean, when you look back at it, they were 12-4. They won their 2 playoff games. What was it? 61-10 at home. 2 great playoff games, 2 great playoff victories. They were 12-4. It was a great season. It was really, really great season. It just didn't quite end the way it was, but it is what it is, But I mean, as you look at it, the Giants have been in 5 Super Bowls. They've won 4 out of 5. I'll take an 80% winning percentage in a Super Bowl any day of the week, right? So, well, that pretty much wraps up the 2000 season. I'll be back probably later on tonight, or shall I say maybe early in the morning, okay, with the 2001 season of the New York Giants, which just happened to be the 77th season in history of the New York Giants. I'll see you then.